Please rise if you wish for the invocation and the pledge. Dear God, tonight we are grateful for the promise of a busy year, one in which we begin or complete projects that move us towards some of our important goals. We look forward to the groundbreaking next week for our long-awaited Main Street area across from Sunrail. We anticipate getting funding for the reconstruction of Benson Junction. We have begun the work on updating our land development code to advance our goals for redevelopment along our main corridors and modernize codes to comply with current laws and best practices. We expect to get more details and see progress on the planning for a new DeBerry school. We will see more work done to ready Alexander Island for its development as a public park, and work to improve Fort Florida Road will go forward. These are exciting and challenging times, so we ask for guidance throughout the coming year. As we consider the matters before us this evening, grant us wisdom, knowledge, and understanding that we may make the best decisions for those who have entrusted us to represent them. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. This is a special City Council meeting for the month of January 2024. City Clerk, would you do the roll call, please?
Councilmember Sell.
Here.
Councilmember Papalardo. Here. Councilmember Stevenson.
Here.
Mayor Chazet.
Here.
Vice Mayor Butlin.
Here. Are there any deletions or amendments to the agenda?
Mayor, I'd like to make an addition. We have a presentation,
A proclamation?
proclamation tonight that was inadvertently left off the agenda.
Okay, that will be our first item prior to new business.
Yes.
Anything further?
Nope.
All right, it is my honor and privilege to issue this proclamation, which we have done in recent January, but it is an important thing for our community to be aware of, and that is human trafficking. Whereas human trafficking is the recruitment, harboring, transportation, provision, or obtaining of a person for labor or services through use of force, fraud, coercion, for the purpose of forced labor or sexual servitude, and whereas human trafficking is a $150 billion a year global criminal enterprise, as well as a civil and human rights violation involving an estimated 25 million victims, and whereas human traffickers prey on their victims by promising a life of hope and greater opportunity while delivering only enslavement. Traffickers unjustifiably profit from the labor and toil of their victims, who they force through violence or intimidation to work in brothels, factories, on farms and fishing vessels, in private homes, and in countless industries. Whereas January is National Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month, we commit ourselves to eradicating the evil of enslavement. Human trafficking is a modern form of the oldest and most barbaric type of exploitation, and we proclaim that it has no place in our world, our nation, or our city. Whereas this month we do not simply reflect on this appalling reality, we also pledge to do all in our power to end the horrific practice of human trafficking that plagues innocent victims not only around the world, but in our own neighborhoods. Whereas more awareness and education is crucial to eradicating human trafficking in our communities, state, and nation, and whereas Human Trafficking Awareness Day is observed on January the 11th in municipalities across the country in order to educate the public and raise awareness about human trafficking, now therefore, in order to educate the public and raise awareness about human trafficking, the City of DeBerry does hereby proclaim January 11, 2024 as Human Trafficking Awareness Day in the City of DeBerry, and urges its residents, agencies, and champions to support efforts and take action to end human trafficking. In witness whereof, I have hereunto helped set my hand and caused the seal of the City of DeBerry to be affixed this 17th day of January 2024. And we have with us this evening Christy Gillis, who will say a few words and receive the proclamation.
Thank you. My name is Christy Gillis. I'm with the Department of Children and Families, a Community Development Administrator, as well as the Chair of the Freedom 7 Human Trafficking Task Force. I want to thank the continued support by the City of DeBary, who did host an event earlier last year with in a partnership with the Sheriff's Department and Department of Children and Families about online and internet safety and human trafficking. I will leave some information about online and a safety toolkit for parents to make them what to look out for in regards to the online and internet safety. And we also do have an event scheduled on January 24th from 6 to 8 p.m. at the Pickett Community Center on online behavior leads to offline danger with Jan Edwards through Paving the Way Foundation. We also have a subject matter expert through My Name, My Voice, and this is in conjunction with the Freedom 7 Human Trafficking Task Force. You can also find that information on our Facebook page. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for coming and bringing that word to us. We are moving on to agenda item number 1 under new business. The city manager is requesting City Council award RFQ 0823 bid to Wharton Smith, Inc. and approve the contract for construction management, general contracting services for pre-construction phase services for Fire Station number 39. Has a real ring to it, doesn't it? City manager, Fire Station number 39.
Thank you, Mayor. Still running through this particular process. As you know, we purchased the property, I believe, back in 2020, early parts of 2020. Been working on this particular project. We did get a state appropriation of $1.25 million towards this. By the time we got through the state appropriations, between COVID and all the markets and everything else, prices have skyrocketed. So when we got the contract with Division of Financial Services, we went out for RFP in 2022. We did receive 3 bids, but they were all significantly over budget. And so we went through a process of value engineering, and then decided to change our approach. Rather than an RFP, we're going to go through a CMARC services contract, which is construction manager at risk. And it's a whole different process. It provides a guaranteed maximum price and requires an RFQ to choose the best qualified company. And we did that in July 2023. We established a selection committee made up of myself, our city engineer, and our engineer. We did go through those, and we, through a scoring mechanism that we have in your packet, we thought that Wharton Smith Incorporated was the best candidate under the RFQ. So there's 2 phases to this particular process. First is a pre-construction phase services, and so that cost is $51,480. There's a little 80-cent discrepancy between the contract and his workshop there, his spreadsheet rather, but the contract says $51,480. On his worksheet in the back, it's $51,480.80. So there's an 80-cent discrepancy, but the contract's $51,480. The objective, obviously, within the pre-construction phase is to work with staff and to obtain a guaranteed maximum price. So they'll be working with their subcontractors. They'll be getting bids from the subcontractors, multiple bids from each one, and then coming up with a guaranteed maximum price. Once that guaranteed maximum price, and in that particular process, they may recommend different materials. They may recommend whatever gets us to the best price that is durable and provides good quality. They may recommend different materials, et cetera, depending on the market. So with the guaranteed maximum price, once we receive that, if it's satisfactory, we'll bring the guaranteed maximum price with the amendment of the construction phase contract, and that will be the actual building out of the project. They'll guarantee the maximum price, and then if it's within our budget, then we can move forward. So this pre-construction phase, and in the contract is 45 days, but I give it 90 days, giving the feedback back and forth between staff and the Wharton Smith, simply because of trying to do whatever we can to build a high-quality project for as cheap as we possibly can. So, Mayor and Council, I'm asking you to award the bid, RFQ 08-23 to Wharton Smith, and to approve the contract for construction management and general contracting services for pre-construction phase services for Fire Station number 39 for the total amount of $51,480.
Thank you. City Clerk, do we have any public participation?
No, ma'am, we do not.
All right. Councilmember Sell, any questions or comments?
No comments.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Just so that we have a handle on this arrangement, this is basically having a project manager, right?
Correct. They'll manage the entire project, and providing all the, what they call CEI, construction, engineering, and inspection. They'll provide all those aspects of it, so they will oversee all the entire project from beginning to end.
Right, so then the only follow-up question is, do you have a timeline that we might start to see like a total project estimate? And is that, well,
You'll get a guaranteed maximum price within 45 to 90 days. They will give you that number, and if it's the number that fits within our budget, or et cetera, then when we bring back the construction phase contract, that will have the guaranteed maximum price in it, and then the council can approve that, and we'll move forward.
oh, it's right there, I'm sorry. Yep, all right.
right.
Thank you.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Do they already have like an idea of what our budget is so that we get a guaranteed maximum price that we're more likely to approve?
Well, the budget that we put in the RFQ was substantially less than what we have, but the clear focus is to, we're going to take a look at all their bids from their subcontractors, and making sure that each one meets the scope that we're looking for, and it follows the engineering. Now, typically, when you do a CMAR contract, they do the engineering and then go right straight into construction. But this is a little different. We had Neil Schaefer. We weren't planning on doing a CMAR contract that encompassed the whole process. But so Neil Schaefer's got all the engineering. Wharton Smith may have some ideas to maybe alter some of that engineering, and not only provide a better product, but also to provide it in a more cheaper format.
Thank you, that's all my questions.
Vice Mayor Butland?
So when is the shovel going in the ground? That's my always question.
Let's get the guaranteed maximum price.
Well,
Yeah.
no, I think it's great that we're at a point. I just like to know 45 to 90 days is too far for me, but I'm hoping that it's sooner, and I hope it comes in at a good price. I know everything's gone up, but they were significantly over budget, the other ones.
Well, those were RFPs,
Right.
and what generally drives up RFPs is a little doubt. And so they're not sure what the cost of things are, and they may get some quotes from their subcontractors. When you get into a CMAR contract, Wharton Smith and these particular, some they've worked for decades, but they're going to get hardcore numbers of exactly what the costs are going to be for every phase of this particular project. And so when they give you a guaranteed maximum price, they're held to that particular number, and regardless of what this project ends up costing. Now, if they come in lower, great. We surplus the money. If it comes in higher, they're on the hook. So that's their responsibility.
Any
The only
further?
reason why I'm concerned with starting construction is for insurance purposes for the people in the area. I know that's with insurance going up, I had to renew, and they asked me what the nearest fire station was, blah, blah, blah. We went through all that, and there is a slight difference in the ratings on the insurance because we don't have that down there. So that's my concern with the community. And with the more building, now we're breaking ground on Main Street, that's a big concern. So that's the reason why I like the shovel in the ground. At least that gives me, my head functions with the timeline. Thank you.
Thank you. I would say I'm encouraged that we're at this point. I too like to see it go faster, but I also don't want it to go faster and have details fall through the cracks. This is too important a project for us. I am encouraged that because I have read that Wharton Smith has done many CMAR contracts, and they certainly are well-regarded, large company with deep roots here in our local community. It's one of those sort of success stories for the local area. You may know that their office is over on Monroe Boulevard there in Sanford, just across the bridge. The Whartons and Smiths have been very involved in charitable contributions to the zoo, where I've also been involved. So this is a local success story that has become very well established and well regarded, and they have lots of experience in CMAR, and so I think that this is the right way to go. Yes.
Just a comment, Mayor. They've done more than 15 fire stations under this format. But they've got hundreds and hundreds of other construction projects that are not fire stations that are under this format.
Correct.
So their experience is impeccable, so.
Correct. Okay, if there's no further discussion, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve, to award the RFQ 08-23 bid to Wharton Smith, Inc., and approve the contract for construction management, general contracting services for pre-construction phase services for Fire Station Number 39
Second.
with the total cost of $51,480.80.
Still second.
Second.
Okay, Vice Mayor Butlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Agenda item number 2, staff is requesting City Council approve the easement agreement with MetroNet Infrastructure Group, LLC, for the installation of fiber optic equipment on city property.
Good evening, Council. This is Richard Villasenor, DeBerry Senior Engineer. Sorry. It's been a while. I should practice more often. So the purpose of this equipment, first of all, MetroNet approached us actually a few months ago. They wanted to do something in the immediate corner of Columba in 1792. They've identified this particular area as a central point to help install this type of equipment. This equipment is a signal booster equipment, so they felt that this was ideal for helping that signal as it travels these long fiber optic lines. And this is strictly for fiber optic equipment. As some of the considerations, we have more and more residents working from home. I think that's more of a global thing, kind of. We believe this can help with that, establishing more reliable service. In particular, also during severe weather, that could also preferably help provide that service. The equipment is to be located in the southwest corner of the DeBerry Sheriff's Office here, just next door. As far as cost for us, there is no cost. This is all on the MetroNet's installation and cost and maintenance. Recommendation is for the city. Recommendation that the City Council approve the easement agreement with MetroNet Infrastructure Group, LLC, effective upon council approval. And any questions?
Okay, City Clerk, do we have any public participation?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Councilmember Sell, questions or comments?
No questions.
Councilmember Papalardo?
No questions.
Councilmember Stevenson?
No questions, thank you.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
No, I'm good, thanks.
All right, I do. We've just come out of a workshop where we talked about what things look like in the core of our city, and I didn't see anything about screening this thing. So we're being asked to give this company permission to put a box, from what I could see, on our property for a good, which is better internet connection in the core of our town. But if we care about what we look like from the street, why is there no screening and no sort of commitment from them to make this blend in better than just being an equipment box?
So that is something that we started this process before the code
Oh, I know the code isn't in
so-
place, but still, the idea of
Oh, no.
utility boxes on 1792 is something we could care about today, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
This is an image, obviously not of this
Yeah.
one yet, similar. So it does provide some green space in the front to potentially do something going forward. Right now, the area is just grass space.
But if we're letting them do this, they don't have an obligation to put 4 bushes in front or something?
We can definitely make arrangements.
I think that if we care about how our core of our city looks, which we've just spent an hour plus or not quite an hour plus, about an hour discussing, and we've put 3 years of energy into trying to figure out what it should look like, turning around and just saying, sure, you can stick your boxes there right up against the street, we don't care, is a little bit, I don't know. There's some dissonance in this, could we say, for me. The other question I have is MetroNet a private entity like AT&T is, or one of these others, so that this better cellular service will come to new customers that they will get because we allow them to put this there?
They are a competitor to AT&T.
Okay, so they're putting in service throughout the core of our city. Do they have a good track record of how they behave in cities when it comes to construction and installation? I'm trying to remember if this is the one that has had some problematic performance in adjacent jurisdictions.
So far, we've permitted Verizon, Comcast, AT&T.
But MetroNet-
in particular, I do not recall a previous application come through the city.
Okay, and we don't know of their reputation for installations.
Not at this time.
Might be worth a quick search. I'm thinking things that may have, if I'm remembering the correct company, and I'm hopeful this is just a Sterling company, I got the wrong company in mind. You might want to do a quick search to make sure that they have been perceived as good actors in other communities. That's it for me. I'm okay with it, but I think that we need to do maybe a tad more due diligence. And I do think that I would prefer, given our focus on doing what we can when we can to change what our city looks in the middle, not to give permission for this utility box with doors fronting 1792, permission to be installed without some sort of site screening.
Definitely. And then just to add a little more clarification.
Sure.
When these companies come in, it's not the company themselves doing the installations.
Yeah.
They have multiple contractors that
Yeah.
do these installations. For example, AT&T has multiple contractors that are
sure.
physically out there doing
Yeah.
installations. I'll look into further.
There have been in recent past some installations of fiber optic cable in adjacent jurisdictions where there have been numerous complaints and issues. And I don't recall who it is, and you're right, they could have many contractors. I'm just saying this kind of work may be the kind that we'd want to keep a little bit of an eye on since we're giving them permission and cooperating with them in the center of our town.
Sure. As far as the screening, I know we've talked about a number of things for even the traffic signal equipment boxes that
Sure.
are sticking up.
Yeah.
We've talked about perhaps painting those.
Murals or whatever,
Exactly.
art exhibits and installations. I'm just saying, this is a brand-new one,
Yes.
and we're doing the company a favor, and I think that we can ask for it to have a certain look. Whatever that look is, I leave up to staff, but that's an ask I would have.
Sure. And
It doesn't mean I'll be a barrier to approval tonight.
no, we'll take a look at it, and we'll
Okay.
come up with some options.
Good enough. Thank you much. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the easement agreement with MetroNet Infrastructure Group LLC.
May we amend your motion contingent on staff changes to screening?
Sure. Contingent upon staff changes or clarifications of design. How about that?
Second.
How about we just do approve it?
Subject to.
Condition upon the staff working with MetroNet to
Perfect.
screen.
Okay, what was your motion, Phyllis? Do we have to withdraw that one?
I would
Legal?
withdraw that one.
Okay.
And I recommend that the council approve the easement agreement with MetroNet Infrastructure Group LLC, subject to the staff clarifying the design and placement of these boxes, whatever. What was I supposed to say? Is that it?
Conditioned upon screening of the.
Screening, condition of the screening of the boxes.
Second.
Excellent. Vice Mayor Butlin.
Yes.
Councilmember Papalardo.
Yes.
Councilmember Sell.
Yes.
Councilmember Stevenson.
Yes.
And I am a yes.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Villasenor. We are moving on to agenda item number 3. The city manager is requesting the city council approve Mercino dewatering pump rentals for the current month, which expires on January 18th, very soon, 2024, and to extend these rentals for another 30 days through February 18th, 2024. City manager?
Thank you, Mayor. I thought I'd do a little presentation of why we're doing these pump rentals, and because I try to put a little data with some of the things that are going on in the environment. It's pretty tough, but I grabbed the data from St. John's Water Management District on the St. John's River, and we'll just start there. As you can see, over the last 3 or 4 years, the green being a hurricane season, and the blue being December and January. And as you can see, this December, January is a little different than the previous 3 years. And typically in December and January, we were seeing a sharp decline in the St. John's River and its levels. And this year, on the far right, January 2024, you see a significant increase or stabilization. The river is up 4 feet based upon the St. John's Water Management District. If you look in the bottom left, there is a little islet there which shows where the measurement takes place. It's at the right where the Lake Monroe enters, actually converges into the St. John's River. So, and so this just gives you really a snapshot of what's transpiring this winter. We're in a El Nino winter pattern. We're getting constant rain, 2 fronts a week. Unfortunately, it's dropping rain every time a front comes through, significant. Water levels are up, water tables are up, lakes are up, and we've been pumping James Pond on a regular basis to keep the water levels straight. So that just gives you a snapshot of the St. John's River. And, you know, since the end of the hurricane season, we've got a significant rise in the St. John's River, which affects, believe it or not, affects all our lakes and affects the saturation of the ground, which causes the water to not go into the ground as much and enter our stormwater system. So many people ask, well, why is the St. John's River up? They don't even know how the St. John's River works. And so I thought I'd give you a map of how the St. John's River works. This is the St. John's River Basin, and it starts in subbasin number 1, which is in Indian River County. And so when those fronts come through, even though they drop a couple inches of rain here, it's dropping a couple inches of rain all the way into the basin. And so subbasin 1, subbasin 2, which I've heard the number of 2,200 square miles is all that water that's collected in the basin eventually comes through Lake Harney and Lake Monroe and comes right through DeBary. And that's, you know, it's one of the few rivers in the world that flows north. And just so people understand why the St. John's River is up is because as these fronts come through, they're dumping a tremendous amount of water in the basin. And the water that's dumped in subbasin 1 and subbasin 2 have the greatest impact on the St. John's River where we are at. That's why Hurricane Ian and Tropical Storm Nicole were such great impacts to the basin, is both of those had dumped a tremendous amount of water, about 30 inches of water into this particular basin, and that's what's been traveling through the St. Johns River through, in and around DeBary. So these are the stormwater projects, and I'll just run through them right now that we have currently in operation. Obviously, the DeBary Plantation, the orange is our western pumping system. Pretty much most of the northern part of DeBary is on the western system, and we take that water and we pump it to our borough pit. We've been advisory to many of our fellow cities. You want to eliminate flooding by a borough pit. So, and I throw that in a little smile because one of the cities took us up on the advice.
Orange City recently, yes.
So last meeting, you approved the repair and of air release valves. So we're going through that particular process. They've started. And so that should be done here in short order. And then once that's done, we'll make a decision on whether our second pump needs to be rebuilt, or we decide to go ahead and replace them. They're 15 years old, 16 years old, and we built them both, but the vibration in the system is causing, these pumps to malfunction. So that's what we're working on right now on the western pumping system. So we only have one pump currently at DeBary Plantation. It's operating fine. It's at 25% efficiency right now because of the air release valves. But we have staged there an 8-inch pump as a secondary if such needed, and we think it's important to have it there as we continue to get these particular fronts to come through. And some are pretty heavy. So these red bands coming through at a fast speed. Fast speed helps us because it's less rain, but they're certainly more violent, and so it certainly presents a challenge. This week, we just got a cold front come through. We got another rainstorm coming on Friday, and then there's another rainstorm coming on Monday. So these things are coming very rapidly. James Pond, we're in process of building a pump station, and the St. John's Water Management District permit has been issued, and we should be out into an RFP here within the next month or two. So we'll get that RFP out, and we'll get that station built. The 12-inch pump we have at James Pond, once this pump this station is built, we will never need that again. So ultimately, it'll pay for itself for what we have done over the years. And then Lake Charles, Bill Keller Park, we're in process of upgrading the electrical there. That pump station there was built in the late 1980s, early 1990s. The electrical system is extremely antiquated. So we're working on upgrading that electrical system to be able to handle the volume there. There's an old project that we should have done many years ago, in 2008. When we got the emergency permits for Woodbound Lakes back in 2008, we were required to change the irrigation for Bill Keller Park from well to pull out lake water, and use the Lake Charles as the irrigation. Unfortunately, sad to say that the city never did that. And so when we did the Woodbound project, this is one of the requirements to finish up that Woodbound project, is to change the irrigation from well to lake and use surface water out of the lake to irrigate Bill Keller Park. That's just part of the nutrient studies, and also pulling water out of the aquifer is not necessary to irrigate. So the St. John's Water Management District got issue permits on those, and we haven't budgeted for Lake Charles or Bill Keller Park. We'll evaluate and maybe do an RFP to see how much it costs and whether or not we want to pull it out of reserves and get that project done. If not, we can always budget for next fiscal year as well in October. And so, just to let you know, these are three very important projects that we're working on, and to make sure that we provide our residents the best service we possibly can. We're always going to side on the caution side to make sure that we're always prepared, and we don't have any excuses as far as trying to save money at the risk of flooding a home. So we're always going to be on the side of caution. So Mayor and Council, Not only am I going to ask you to approve the pump rental that's currently in existence, but to extend it another 30 days for a total of $41,446.
Thank you. City Clerk, do we have any public participation?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Okay, Councilmember Sell, questions or comments?
No comments.
Councilmember Papalardo.
No questions.
Councilmember Stevenson.
I think you answered everything in your presentation. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Butlin.
No questions.
And I don't have any questions either. So we can have a motion.
I'll move to approve the current month pump rental, December 19th, 2023 to January 18th, 2024, and the next month pump rental, January 19th, 2024 to February 18th, 2024, totaling $41,446.
Second?
Councilmember Stevenson.
Yes.
Councilmember Sell.
Yes.
Councilmember Papalardo.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Butlin.
Yes.
And I am a yes. Moving on to agenda item number 4, the city manager is requesting the city council approve the perpetual conservation easement between the city of DeBary and the St. Johns River Water Management District for the Palm Drive property, which we now own.
Yay.
It's good to say that. It was a
I added that.
Yeah, thank you. It was a very complicated process, and we're going through it. Just for bring everybody up to speed, since we've been at this process now for about 6 or 7, maybe 8 months now. The area on the left is the Palm Road property or Palm Drive property. It's the area in gold. It's adjacent to I-4. We now own that. We went ahead and closed. The council approved waiving the contingency, so we can go ahead and close. There were some legal description issues that we had to work through, and we got those resolved, and we had to go back to, unfortunately, to the prior owner. The prior owner donated the property to the now organization, and in that there were some typos in the legal descriptions that just unfortunately caused us havoc. But in our agreement there, it was also to exchange remove the conservation easement off the 2.17 acres at the corner of Fort Florida Road and 1792, which will enhance the DeBary Town Center, and then we're going to be exchanging that property with DTC. Just let everybody know that this property here is one of the reasons why they wanted to connect this property was to prevent a lot of U-turns on 1792 from this development. It was a requirement of FDOT. Even though FDOT bought this property in the 2004 expansion of I-4, they bought this property and they're requiring us to, for that connectivity to make Fort Florida Road a four-way intersection and to prevent a lot of U-turns out of this subdivision, that this would be done necessary. So even though they bought it, took it away from Mr. Costa, now they're going back and because of this subdivision, wanting that intersection to be four-way for public safety and 1792 traffic. So as you remember, we had 5 partners in this deal: City of DeBary, the Now organization, the DeBary Town Center, which I'll refer to as DTC, St. John's Water Management District, and FDOT. The process, obviously, we did a purchase and sales agreement with the Now organization. That was done May 3rd, 2023. We did the exchange agreement with DTC, and that was done on July 7th, 2023. And that exchange agreement is that the county will actually convey the 2.17 acres to the city. We will maintain the right-of-way and the right-of-way for the trail, and then the remainder of the property will go to DTC. We did close. We moved up to close on Palm Drive property. We are now the owners, and that was done on January the 9th, 2020. Excuse me, that should be 24. And then tonight we're deciding on the perpetual conservation easement with the St. John's Water Management District. You have that agreement. We've been working a great deal. And of course, these conservation easements need the legal descriptions to be correct. And so that was some of the holdups there, is we couldn't get this approved until we got the legal descriptions ironed out with the Now organization and the previous owner. So tonight, if the council does decide to approve the perpetual conservation easement, then Volusia County, which should happen next month, will convey the 2.17 acres to the city. And based upon our exchange agreement with DTC, all the engineering for that particular 2.17 acres is already done. Then the St. John's Water Management District will approve not only this easement, but the transfer easement off the 2.17 acres. And then DeBerry Town Center then will pay the city the $390,000 in February. So I did mention a little finance in the agenda, so I thought, you know what, I'm going to clarify a little bit. So this was in my mind here this whole time. Obviously, we're trying to work out the best deal possible. The purchase price was $975,000. We took advantage of the requirement for DTC mitigation of $390,000, so that we took advantage of that, which left a subtotal of $585,000. We also took advantage of FDOT a little bit because they're going to have to come back and purchase the 4 acres. Whether we get the cash or, as you can see my little note at the bottom there, we have the option to leverage for other projects and services of equal value, I'm sure. So ultimately, that's what these numbers here were in my mind as we were going through this particular process and making this whole project happen for as little money as possible so it wouldn't burden the city. So Mayor and Council, this is, I'm asking for your approval of the St. John's Water Management District, the perpetual conservation easement between the city and St. John's Water Management District.
Thank you. City Clerk, do we have any public participation?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Okay, Councilmember Sell.
I'm glad to see this coming to a conclusion.
Councilmember Papalardo.
We really did something special here, Carmen. That was some great engineering on your part. These multi-tentacle deals are very impressive, especially considering what we have avoided on the Palm property. That's a very significant win for every resident in town. Thank you for all of this effort.
Councilmember Stevenson.
Just to echo similarly, I'm very pleased that we've gotten to this point, and I'll be very happy to have a conservation easement in perpetuity for that property. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Butlin.
Just to reiterate everything, it's a great move, great decisions, great negotiating. So thank you, Carmen, for all that and the staff.
And I would echo what's been said. I am so happy that we own Palm Drive. It was something that I was, after that last hearing when we turned away a proposal to develop it, I was determined that we would never see another one. And if we own it now, I don't think we will see anything. And I think it is wonderful, the additional things that Carmen brought to that idea have served us so well. And I love the fact that we are trading 2 acres out of conservation and getting 20 acres under conservation. We're multiplying times 10 the amount of land we have under conservation. And to me, that is definitely a huge win. So if there's no further discussion, I would entertain a motion.
Move to approve the perpetual conservation easement between the City of DeBerry and the St. Johns River Water Management District for the Palm Drive property.
Second.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
Yes.
Councilmember Papalardo?
Yes.
Councilmember Sell?
Yes.
And I am a yes. Moving on to member reports and communications. Councilmember Sell, anything to report?
I'm looking forward to next week and our groundbreaking on downtown.
Oh, you stole my thunder. Councilmember Papalardo?
Same.
Same, your thunder too.
Yeah.
Councilmember Stevenson?
Nothing to report. Thank you.
Vice Mayor Butlin?
Just to say where I've been, I was at the round table with everyone on Monday, the elected officials. I was also on a call with Florida League of Cities that afternoon, and there's a lot going on in Tallahassee. And if we're not paying attention to it, we really need to start. There's issues going on. I heard comments today about some of the things that were up there, and I'm just very concerned with the homestead exemption increase. All those kind of things are just going to affect us tremendously. The Volusia League of Cities had a board meeting on Tuesday. We've planned the 2024 year, as well as getting all those dates on the calendar and planning for their advocacy that we can, when we go up there at the end of the month. I'm looking forward to next week. It's going to be great. We have a busy week.
We do. I also was at the electeds meeting. We did go over property insurance update. There was like a glimmer of hope on the horizon. I don't know how far away that horizon is, but anything positive I like to hear. It didn't help my bill, which is due on the 4th of February or whatever. I also was on a mayor's call, and we discussed a number of things, including the request from the Florida League of Cities Advocacy Group to provide dollar impacts to our city should certain legislative proposals pass. One of those is the idea that there would be an additional $25,000 homestead exemption per property. So we have modeled that in response to the request. I brought that back to our city manager and finance director. They've modeled that. They know what it would do on revenues. And then there is also the possibility with pending legislation for increasing the cap on municipal liability in lawsuits. And if that happens, our insurance would likely go up substantially because it's a business. So if you vastly increase your exposure, the cost goes up. And so that has been modeled or estimated by the city manager and the finance department. And then there is another proposal, which sort of is, we saw first emerge recently locally when the Volusia County ended their BTRs. The state then thinks that they should tell all of us to end the BTRs. And as we discussed earlier this evening, whatever the small dollar amount it is we get for the business tax receipt, that is, A, we put it aside to put into businesses with things like the facade grant or the sign grant. But B, that process, the filing of it, triggers our knowledge that the business is here, and it triggers things like the fire inspection and other kinds of inspections, so we make sure we don't have a business coming in that's perhaps in their ignorance doing things that are unsafe and are not consistent with code. So it isn't so much the fee itself, which isn't large. Is it $25?
Depending on business, up to 40s max, I think.
Okay, between $25 and $40. But it is, the information that it provides to the city is the true value, particularly as we set the $25 to $40 aside in the fund that we then return through grants to the business community. So that one has a modest financial impact, but would have a significant impact on our ability to keep our arms around what our business community looks like, where they are, and whether their businesses are operating in a safe fashion. So those things were discussed on the mayor's call and that request, and then subsequently our city has put that information together, and I know that our advocacy side of our organization is keeping on top of what's going on there. Anyone who feels strongly about the financial impact or wants to understand it could ask the city manager and could individually lobby as well, if you should so choose. I am looking forward to the groundbreaking for Main Street next week. That's going to be fun. And thinking of projects that are major that we have coming up in this fiscal year, you may remember back at budget time we had these huge projects, and I think it was Councilmember Papalardo had asked for a Gantt chart to give us an idea of how this all dovetails and becomes a plan. I think that we've had some slippage. Life happens. Things don't come in when we expect them. And so I would like to ask the city manager at some point, it's not urgent, but some point in the next month, for a presentation either in your remarks or as a small agenda report, to give us an update on that Gantt chart and where you see these big projects. When now do you think that they would start, and show us if they slipped a little bit, just so that we feel like we still have our arms around that. City manager.
Well, government caused some of those slippages.
I'm not saying that there's a reason that the city didn't, that they slipped as the city's responsibility. I'm saying as
No.
council members, I think we want to keep our eye on where we are with these big projects.
question.
And when they're
I
going to
just
be.
had to smile.
Yes.
Well, she stole my thunder a little bit. I did want to go over some of the legislative sovereign immunity.
Immunity.
Is going from, it's
If it's
200.
passed.
Yeah, if it's passed, 250,000 is per incident right now. And it looks like it may go to upwards to 2 to 3 million, depending on what they choose, per incident. If that does pass, and I'm going to be very honest with you, I think it probably most likely will. It's being pushed by, I'm sure, by a lot of folks on the opposite side, not politically opposite side, business side, to get, higher sovereign immunity. But unfortunately, that's going to increase our insurance significantly. I say these because these are burdens that we're going to have to come up with starting the budget process in March and April and May. These are things that we're going to have to consider. The legislative session ends in the first part of March. But certainly, we're going to have to if that passes, we'll have a significant impact on our insurance premiums for sure. The BTRs is another one. The homestead exemption, we did some numbers running on that. That's an additional $25,000 on homestead exemption. We did analysis on that, and it affects the city by $477,000
In revenues.
annually going forward. Certainly, that's going to have an impact on us. There's also another bill that requires building permits to be issued in 3 days. And so.
Or they will be deemed approved.
Yes. And so if that does pass, then we're going to, our contractor, our building development contractor, building permit contractor, certainly going to need more resources. And it's certainly going to drive up permit fees and everything else to be able to manage all that. And so you can anticipate that if we have to do that, we'll have to change some processes. We'll have to add resources. And certainly that will have a cost bearing on us as well. And so we've already been working on updating our fee structure already, simply because it has been updated in about 15 to 17 years, I believe. So they're the same 15 years ago. And so we're trying to work on our fee structure in that regard. But this here, if it does pass, to be able to, once it hits the building department, to go to 3 days, they're going to have to hire significant resources to be able to do that. And that's plan review. Of course, they can comment and everything else, but they got 3 days to issue comments. And so that's going to be a lot of upfront resources in building departments all over the state to have to deal with that. So we'll figure out how that works and whether or not there are any small city exemptions in that bill. We certainly do hope so. But we'll see what the impact on these. So there are a few more impacts that the Florida legislature has got rolling up there that will determine not only our revenue, but determine additional costs for us in the coming budget. So stay tuned. We'll keep you posted. And of course, you always got the Live Local Act. So, and so we did see a revision bill on the Senate side. There is a companion bill on the House side. We're still working with our legislators on the House side to try to get as much possible more revisions done. So we'll see how that transpires over the next 60 days. But stay tuned. It's going to be a fun legislative session.
Thank you. City Attorney, anything to report?
City Attorney's Office has nothing to report this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. Hearing no additional reports, we stand adjourned.